So, hello students, I hope all of you are doing good, right? Welcome back to Vedanta Science Olympiad. This is Baswaraj sir, your biology master student sir. Now, anatomy is very interesting and it is very tricky also because many students don't understand the sectioning of monocot stem, dicot stem, monocot root, dicot root क्योंकि वो basics नहीं समझते. So this is the class where you master the basics. So whatever I teach you in today's class, right? It is very important to understand the next class. अगर आपको what is parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma, what is xylem and phloem, if you do not know all of these small topics, next class is going to be very difficult for your students. Hello, okay, so I hope all of you doing, students. Sir, I have already did this but I can't remember. I'll tell you why you can't remember also. Okay, so whatever I teach today, it is going to be very easy, बहुत ही easy होगा. Whatever I teach in the next class, I have a small trick for that. And what is my trick, students? Generally what I do, students, for monocot and dicot stem, let me just show you, which we'll be doing in the next class. If you can notice, students, I make you write every single point. So what happens in the case of anatomy is that you tend to by heart, and God promise कितना भी by heart करोगे ना, ये याद नहीं रहेगा. So the best way to learn anatomy is by observing. So you will learn all of this in the next class where I will write and teach you every single point, the best way to learn anatomy. Okay, so if you want to understand all this, if you want to understand all of this information, students, if you want to understand all of this information, for example, what exactly happens in epidermis, what exactly happens in hypodermis, then endodermis, pericycle, in the entire cortex here, you need to watch the next lecture for that. Okay, but today we will start with basics to basics today. Okay, can anyone tell me, students, when multiple cells join together, what do we get? जब हम multiple cells लेके उसको जोड़ देंगे तो हमको क्या मिलेगा, students? Anyone in the chat? Anyone? What do you get when you join multiple cells? Quick, students. We get tissues. All of you know that. And all of these tissues and all of these cells can we observe from the outside. Let's say अभी मेरे पास एक plant है, right? I want to observe a tissue. Can I observe all of this from the outside, students? Can I from the outside? Yes, all of you. We cannot observe. So when you study a plant from the outside, that is called as morphology. When you study a plant from the inside, when you take a cross section and look how a plant from the inside, that is called as anatomy. And in this class we will be studying about anatomy in today's class, students. Anatomy. And in today's class I will teach you basics of anatomy which every single student should be aware of. Okay, now students, perfect, let's go, students, let's go. Now first things first, students, I want all of you to understand, हर एक प्लांट अंदर से 90% or 80% is same. Every single plant is same from the inside. It has something called as the epidermis, cortex and stele. Epidermis, cortex and stele, every single plant. Then what is the difference between your plant present in your desert areas or plant present in your tropical areas? The difference there is adaptations. So except a few adaptations, थोड़े adaptation को छोड़ के ना, except a few adaptations, 90 to 80%, let's say 80% plants are same from the inside. Outside they may look different, but अंदर से they're same to same, students. Okay, so from tomorrow tests are starting, but Nidhi ma'am, students, tests are on YouTube. Okay, now students, now you might have learned in your class right now, students, when I tell a group of cell is called as a tissue, right? Now all of these cells have to have similar origin. Students, do they need to have similar origin, similar structure, similar function? Yes. Students, please remember, a group of cell is called as a tissue which need to have a common origin, common function. So origin and function has to be common of all of these cells, but common structure is not very so, because there are some tissues which have different cells. Okay, so they can have a common origin, common function, but not necessarily common structure. कॉमन स्ट्रक्चर होना जरूरी नहीं है यहाँ पर. ओके, नाउ फॉर एग्जांपल, यस, लेट्स से दे हैव कॉमन स्ट्रक्चर, लेट्स से दे हैव अ कॉमन स्ट्रक्चर, देन दे आर कॉल्ड एज सिंपल टिश्यू. उसको हम कहते हैं सिंपल टिश्यू. पैरेन्काइमा, कोलेनकाइमा, स्क्लेरेन्काइमा. ये पैरेन्काइमा, कोलेनकाइमा, स्क्लेरेन्काइमा, all of them are simple tissues which have even the common structure. Now what about xylem and phloem, students? Xylem and phloem are called as complex tissues. Why are they called as complex tissue? Because the cells present in these tissues, xylem और phloem के अंदर जो cells है ना, all of those cells have a dissimilar structure. For example, हमारे ट्रकीट्स, वेसल्स, जाइलम, पैरेन्काइमा, जाइलम फाइबर्स, इन सारे के अंदर डिफरेंट डिफरेंट सेल्स हैं. ओके, सो दे डोंट cannot have a common structure, dissimilar and similar. Now let's classify your entire tissue, students. Let's classify the plant tissues into two categories. Okay, now one category is very hard working, they'll keep on dividing. Now there is one more category which have completely lost the ability to divide. वो डिवाइड नहीं कर सकते स्टूडेंट्स. सो व्हाट आर दीज कैटेगरीज स्टूडेंट्स, एंड डज एनीवन नो व्हाट डू यू कॉल अ ग्रुप ऑफ टिश्यूज व्हिच कैन डिवाइड कांस्टेंटली? एनीवन? व्हाट डू यू कॉल? यहां पर एक ग्रुप ऑफ टिश्यूज है, दे कीप ऑन डिवाइडिंग इन द केस ऑफ प्लांट्स. एनीवन स्टूडेंट्स? That is called as meristematic tissue. Meristematic tissues are dividing cells, they're living cells, and they keep on dividing. Okay, there is something called as primary meristem, secondary meristem. This also I will teach you in today's class. What is primary meristem, kya hai, secondary meristem kya hai, today's class you will learn. Okay, now there is something called as permanent tissue, students. Now what is permanent tissue? These cells have completely stopped dividing. ये अभी डिवाइड नहीं करेंगे, they are fixed. Okay, so fixed structure, fixed function, they can be living or dead. See, if you notice here, we notice meristematic tissues are living है, but here in the case of permanent tissue, they can be living or dead. Can anyone give me an example? I'll tell you what is primary and secondary meristem. There is something called as primary meristem, secondary meristem. I'll teach you. Okay, so primary and secondary meristem. Primary and secondary meristem. I'll teach you what is primary and secondary meristem. Don't worry. In next 5 minutes. Okay. They can be living or dead. Dead example is sclerenchyma. Is an example of dead tissue. Dead permanent tissue. Living parenchyma, collenchyma, both of them. Now they can be simple or complex. Okay. They can be simple or complex. So generally, students, in short forms, we generally showcase primary as this, secondary students, secondary as this. So primary and secondary, that's how the showcasing degree. Yes, right, degree. So primary and secondary. Okay, secondary, primary and secondary. Now students, let's talk about the first type of cells. Now all of you students, all of you, I want you to look at this image and tell me, students, can you see all of them are dividing? Small cells here. Yes, small cells. These cells are dividing. These cells are dividing now, students. Now here in meristematic tissue, do you see something called as intercellular space anywhere? Look here. Anywhere do you see ICS here? No. So ICS is completely absent in the case of meristematic tissue. So ICS is completely absent here. Those small cells, dividing cells, they have dense cytoplasm, large prominent nucleus, and they are dividing cells. Okay, so small cells, dividing cells, intercellular space is completely absent here. Then dense cytoplasm, thin wall cells, primary cell wall. Now for example, देखो, these cells are present in the starting, young cells. So young cells will always have what? Young cells will always have the primary cell wall. Now let's say students, अगर समझो ये जो cells है ना, आगे जाके बड़े हो गए, they matured, then what do we get? If these cells mature, then we get secondary cell wall. But अभी के लिए इसके पास सिर्फ primary cell wall ही है इसके पास. Okay, so primary cell wall, large nucleus, देख रहे हो, large nucleus, and vacuoles are absent here. So this they will ask you, student. This they will ask you. Okay. Okay. So this they might ask you all the different functions of your meristematic tissue. एक बार देख लो. I'll give you exactly 30 seconds and then we'll go forward, students. So please remember, there are small cells. Cell wall is everything is very thin. There are dividing cells. यहाँ पर you will not find, students. You will never find vacuoles here, right? Apart from that, large nucleus, primary cell wall. Okay, so this is your meristematic tissue, students. Okay, now let's look at meristematic tissue. On what basis can we divide meristematic tissues? Now there are two ways to divide. The first category is called as based on origin and location. So we can divide meristematic tissues into primary and secondary meristem. Primary and secondary meristem based on origin and location. इसके ऊपर हम divide कर सकते हैं. But apart from this, we can also divide based on location. Okay, so there is something called as based on location. So on molecular basis, I will take after some time, because anatomy many students were asking. Okay, now based on location and based on origin and function. Any doubt till now? Okay, now let's say, अभी students आप कौन से class में हो students? All of you. अब students आप कौन सी class में हो, जल्दी से बताओ. Let's say you are in 6th, 7th, 8th. अभी आप primary में हो या secondary में हो? All of you right now are in secondary. All of you right now are in secondary right now. Secondary. Yes or no? Secondary. So what is primary? Primary is basically when the plant is very young. Yes or no? The plant is very young that time. Okay. So in based on origin and location, there is something called as primary meristem. Primary meristem is a meristem present from the beginning. There is something called as meristem in the embryo. Meristem in the embryo, right? Promeristem. That meristem is responsible. That is also part of your. From there it is developing. From pro-embryo meristem, we get primary meristem. Yeah, it is present from the beginning, responsible for the primary growth. What is the primary growth? Increase in height of a plant. Increase in height of a plant. And this primary meristem is present in both monocot and dicot. So very simple. Primary meristem कब होता है? When the plant is from the starting itself. Starting से होता है primary meristem. और primary meristem किस में help करता है? Primary meristem plant को grow करने में help करता है. That is primary meristem. Now what is secondary meristem? Secondary meristem is later found or later present. Okay, so it is later formed. So secondary meristem is later found. Now what is it responsible for? Primary meristem is responsible for primary growth. Then secondary meristem is responsible for secondary growth. Now what is secondary growth? Students, understand. Now first of all, see, increase in height. Vertically, a plant is growing vertically. That is called as primary growth. अगर आपने देखा होगा, normally what happens, if this is a plant in the young stage, this plant will eventually convert into this entire small stem, herbaceous stem will convert into a thick trunk. Yes or no, students? Yes or no? Convert. Now here, if you notice, the entire trunk became wider. The stem became wider. That is called as secondary growth. Secondary growth is increase in width. Okay, secondary growth, students, is increase in width. Students, only two lectures. Today, basics, next class, monocot, dicot, everything. So only two lectures. Okay, only two lectures, it's over. Only two lectures for this. Okay, so primary meristem is present in the starting. Later we get secondary meristem. Secondary meristem is responsible for secondary growth, increase in width. Okay, increase in width. So primary meristem, height, secondary meristem, width. Now what is so special here is, you know, secondary meristem है ना? The secondary meristem. This secondary meristem is present only in the case of dicot. सिर्फ dicot में होता है. Only in the case of dicot. So please remember this. So we have primary meristem and secondary meristem, two different types of meristem based on origin. Based on the origin. Okay. So this one is based on origin. Any doubt here, students? Any doubt here? Based on origin, any doubt? Based on origin, any doubt, students? Done? Okay. Now we'll talk about based on location. Based on location right now. Based on location, we have something called as apical or primary meristem, apical meristem, intercalary meristem, and then we have lateral meristem. Three different types of meristem, students. Okay. Hmm. If they're see, if they generally, what you can do is, if the curly plant is eaten by caterpillars, the best would be generally what everyone does is, there are two ways to solve this issue. First way to solve the issue is weedicide, sorry, insecticide. You can apply insecticide, caterpillar will never come back. One more thing is, identify which caterpillar is that. Later on, try to introduce a insect or a organism which will eat the caterpillar, but that is very difficult. So the best for our students, the best is what? The best is insecticide. Okay. Mm, mm, mm. Okay. Students, it doesn't cost much. Insecticide, 100 rupees or something, or 50-60 rupees you get it. Okay. Now, based on location, what do we have? Now, all of you know what is apex. Can anyone tell me what is apex? Apex mane kya? Apex mane top. This is called as apex or apical. This is called as apical. Now, apical meristem is present where? Apical meristem is present on the growing shoot tip and root tip. Okay. See here, students. So, on the top or apex, on the shoot tip and the root tip, we can find the apical meristem. It is based on the location. It is based on the location. Now, here we have something called as SAM and RAM, Ram and Sham. What is Ram and Sham? This is nothing but, see, I told you apical meristem, right? Apical meristem. Now, what is S stands for? S stands for shoot. Shoot apical. Shoot apical meristem. है ना? So SAM is present on the shoot tip. Is shoot tip you can find entire SAM. Then can anyone tell me what is RAM then, students? Can anyone tell me in the chat what is RAM? RAM is root apical meristem. इस रूट के एपेक्स के पास ना, इस रूट के एपेक्स के पास, एपिकल के पार्ट, you have the root apical meristem. So root apical meristem, shoot apical meristem are present on the growing tips. They're present on the growing tips of shoot and root, these meristems. And because of apical meristem, it is also responsible for the primary growth. We generally call apical as primary meristem. Both are almost same here. Okay. Now, what about intercalary meristem, students? Where do you find intercalary meristem? Intercalary meristem is present between two mature tissues in the internodal region. Now you'll ask me, sir, what is internodal region? Listen to me, student. Listen to me. Okay. Understand. Now let's say this is a stem. This is a stem. A stem mainly has certain cross sections. Kabhi dekha hai, students? You might have observed this cross sections in your, let's say, आपने कभी sugar cane खाया होगा ना, गन्ना, गन्ने के जूस पीते हो ना? When you look at a sugar cane, do you see certain lines like this on sugar cane? Yes or no? Now such lines are present in every single stem generally. Now these lines are nothing but they are called as nodes. They are called as nodes. Nodes. Then what do you call this? The gap between two nodes, that is called as internode. So node and internode. जो internode है ना अभी ये, इस internode के पास you can find the intercalary meristem. So intercalary meristem is present between the two mature tissues in the internodal region. Students, do you want to see a diagram for this? I have tatva here for you, students. Here is a tatva, but here are some mistakes in tatva. Usually I don't read tatva, but today I was reading tatva and I found some mistakes here. Okay. Students, we are right now where we learned that plant tissue can be meristematic or permanent. In meristematic, we learned about primary meristem, secondary meristem. Now under primary meristem, we are learning about apical and intercalary. We are here right now. हम यहाँ पर अभी. Okay. Students. Now see the students. Apical meristem on the top, intercalary meristem in the between mature tissues. I'll show you one more better image, students. I'll show you one more better image. Can all of you see? Can all of you see, students? Intercalary meristem? Yes or no? This right here is the intercalary meristem in the internodal region. In the internodal region, we can find the intercalary meristem here. Okay, students, if you look at Tattva, they have given you extra information which you can follow. If you look at Tattva, students, they have given you extra information like this. Like they have given you who is called as the father of anatomy, right? Father of anatomy, they have given you, right? Nemia grew, and then they have given importance of meristem. But enough, that is more than enough, students. Okay, now first one is apical meristem, then there is, students, then there is intercalary meristem right now. Now in intercalary meristem, can all of you notice it is present between two mature tissues. It is present in the, it helps in what? It helps in internode elongation. Now what is the advantage of this? Very simple, very very simple. अगर आपने कभी देखा है, the cow, when the cow eats the grass, cow or goat, when they eat all the top grass fast, when they eat the top grass, what happens? All the grass will again grow back very fast. Why? Because all the grass is growing back very fast because of the internodal elongation, because of intercalary meristem, students. Intercalary meristem. So intercalary meristem helps in the growth of grass very fast. The grass is growing very fast, right? Because of intercalary meristem. So this apical meristem and intercalary meristem, both of them are type of primary meristem. Both are technically primary meristem itself, because they're present in the plant in the young stage. Now what about lateral meristem, students? Lateral meristem is present on the sides, and lateral meristem, right, lateral meristem is present only in dicot, and lateral meristem will give you secondary, will give you lateral growth. Based on location, I'll show you. See here, there is something called as apical meristem, lateral meristem on the sides, then there is intercalary meristem. So three different types of meristem: apical, lateral, and intercalary meristem. Three different types of your meristems based on location, students. Now how many of you know what is a bud? How many of you know what is the axillary bud, students? How many of you know what is the axillary bud? Raise your hands quickly. How many of you know what is the axillary bud? Quick. Okay, so before we go to the axillary bud, let me teach you something very important, which many students make a mistake here. Okay, now students, do you think, right, primary meristem gets converted to secondary meristem? See, you know what is primary meristem, you know what is secondary meristem. Secondary meristem will give you lateral growth, primary meristem will give you height. Primary meristem is present in the young plants, secondary meristem present in the old plants. Secondary meristem is present only in dicots, present in monocot and dicot both. But do you think primary से secondary मिलता है क्या, students? Yes. Anyone? What do you think, students? What do you think? From primary meristem, do we get secondary meristem? Think. Is primary meristem, can it convert to secondary meristem? Is this how the conversion happens? Actually, the answer is no. Primary meristem will never directly convert to secondary meristem. Now, whatever I tell you in the next 5 minutes, please listen to it very carefully. बहुत अच्छा concept है ये, बहुत ही अच्छा concept है. Okay, 5 minutes. Okay, so please remember, primary meristem will never convert to secondary meristem. Then what does primary meristem produce? Primary meristem क्या करता है then? Students, please remember, a primary meristem will give rise to primary tissue. So please remember, a primary meristem will give rise to, it will give rise to a, here, प्राइमरी मेरिस्टम से क्या बनता है? प्राइमरी मेरिस्टम से प्राइमरी टिश्यू बनता है, प्राइमरी टिश्यू. ओके, प्राइमरी टिश्यू बनता है इससे, प्राइमरी मेरिस्टम से प्राइमरी टिश्यू. नाउ दिस इज कॉल्ड एज डिफरेंशिएशन. Now, what is differentiation? This primary meristem, which is the dividing tissue, dividing cells, they will now lose the ability to divide. They will complete what? What is differentiation? Differentiation is nothing but loss of ability to divide. They will not divide anymore. That is called as differentiation. Okay, that is called as differentiation. That is primary meristem, it will lose the ability to divide and becomes primary tissue. Now what happens, students? Now this primary tissue is there, right? It will now regain the ability to divide. Primary meristem, it is regaining the ability now. It is regaining the ability. Now what do you call that? That is called as dedifferentiation. And from primary permanent tissue, we get secondary meristem. So please know the entire flow. इस तरह से यहां से नहीं होता, यहां से यहां होता है, and this tissue can convert into secondary meristem. ये जो टिश्यू है ना यहाँ पर प्राइमरी टिश्यू, this will convert into a secondary meristem, that is regain the ability to divide. वापस dividing ability को regain करता है this particular structure. Okay, now what about this secondary meristem? What will it do, students? Secondary meristem will again undergo redifferentiation. Now what is redifferentiation? Lose its ability to divide again and secondary tissue. So what is the actual flow here? The actual flow is very simple. First, there is a loss of ability to divide, losing the ability to divide, that is called as differentiation, जिससे हमको tissue मिलता है. Then gain of ability to divide, regain the ability to divide, वापस gain कर गया यहाँ पर, that is called dedifferentiation. Again it is losing the ability to divide, that is because of, then we get secondary tissue. So LGL, okay, LGL, that is first losing, then gaining, then losing. So this is called as differentiation, dedifferentiation, redifferentiation. Okay, so any doubt, students, here? Any doubt in the following terminologies? Okay, now I'll teach you what is a bud. Students, ready, all of you? Ready? How does a bud develop? A bud develops where? And how does a bud, what can bud develop into? Very simple concept. Okay, now see this, students, see this. Here we have a stem, here we have a stem. Now what do we call these, students? These structures are called as what? These structures are called as nodes. These are between two nodes. This is called as internode. It is called as what? Internode. Then node and internode. So now onwards, always remember, from today onwards, always remember, इस नोड से ना हमेशा लीफ निकल के आता है. A leaf will always arise, students. A leaf will always arise from a node. A leaf will always arrive from a node here. Always arrive from a node. Now, what do we call this structure right here? This part. This part is called as a leaf axil. It is called as leaf axil. Now, understand what happens. Now, what do we have here on the top? What do we have in the top growing shoot? What do we have in the apex? Students, what do we have in the shoot apex? We have something called as SAM, shoot apical meristem. Now, the shoot apical meristem is growing. Shoot apical meristem is growing. When shoot apical meristem is growing, leaves are produced. Leaves are produced in an acropetal succession. What is acropetal? Acropetal is old at the bottom, young at the top. Very simple. Okay. So leaves are produced. Now, when the leaves are produced, right? When the SAM is growing, some cells are left behind. Okay. When this shoot apical meristem is growing, some cells are left behind in the leaf axil. Some cells are left behind in the leaf axil. इस leaf axil के पास ना छोटे छोटे cells रह जाते हैं. When the SAM is growing, some cells are left behind. Now these cells here, जो पीछे छूट गए ना, those cells develop into something called as what, students? Those cells convert into something called as a bud. They turn into a bud, and this bud is called as what? Since it is present in the leaf axil, it is called as axillary bud. It is called as what? Axillary bud. Now, what about this? What is the use of this axillary bud to a plant? This axillary bud can develop into a one more branch, or it can develop into a flower. इस तरह से देखो स्टूडेंट्स, यहां से एक ब्रांच निकल के आ सकता है, ब्रांच निकल के आ सकता है, ब्रांच, और यू कैन सी अ फ्लावर देयर, okay, or you can see a flower also there. Now, sometimes you might have seen in the case of citrus and all, okay. In citrus and all, if you notice, they have something called as spines. Have you noticed, students? Thorns. Have you noticed they have some thorns? So in some plants, what happens is this axillary bud develop into a thorn like this. Not a spine, thorn. Spine is a leaf modification. Thorn is a axillary bud modification. So they can modify into a thorn also. You might have observed that also in real life. Okay. This is called as a axillary bud, which is present in the leaf axil. Now this axillary bud is nothing but a compact young shoot. It is a compact young shoot because it can develop into a shoot later on. So compact young shoot. Okay. Now students, now what did we learn till now, students? All of you read this once. Read this. Very easy it is. Growth in plants is largely restricted to specialized regions of the active cell division called as meristem. So in meristems we have all the dividing cells. Okay. Now plants have different kinds of meristem which occur at the tip of root and shoot and produce primary tissue is called as apical meristem. So apical meristem is called as primary tissue. Okay. Now root apical meristem, also called as RAM. Root apical meristem occupies the tip of the root, while the shoot apical meristem, SAM, occupies the distinct mode region of the stem. Now see this. During the formation of leaf, जब leaf बन रहा है ना, when the shoot apical meristem is growing, formation of leaf and elongation of stem, some cells are left behind from the shoot apical meristem and constitutes the axillary bud. Did we learn that, students? Did we learn that when the SAM is growing, when leaves are produced, some cells are left behind, and that is called as axillary bud. That is called as axillary bud, right now, students? Axillary bud. Such buds are present in the axils of the leaf axil, okay, and are capable of forming branch or a flower. Okay. Then there is intercalary meristem present and between the two mature tissues, and this intercalary meristem, students, intercalary meristem, right? They occur in grasses and regenerate part removed by the grazing herbivores. जब goat, sheep, rabbits or cow, buffalo, bison, any animal, any herbivore, if it is eating the grass from the top, the grass undergoes rapid regeneration because of intercalary meristem. Intercalary meristem. Now students, now what about secondary meristem? Understand more detailed version right now, okay. The meristem that occurs in the mature regions of the root and the shoot of the many plants, particularly those produce woody axis and appear later than the primary meristem. So secondary meristem arrives after primary meristem, okay, called as secondary meristem, students. Now they are cylindrical meristem. Now you need to understand what are the different types of secondary meristem. Okay, fascicular vascular cambium, interfascicular cambium, and core cambium. Three different examples, students. Three different examples of your lateral meristem. So in examination, if they give you any one of the following, your First one is interfascicular cambium. Second is called as fascicular vascular cambium, also called as intrafascicular cambium. Both meaning is same. So one is inter, one is intra, then there is cor cambium. Three different types of cambium, students. Three different types of cambium. Inter, intra, cor cambium. All three are examples of lateral meristem. Now you need to understand, where do you find inter, where do you find intra? Very simple. Now students, these are called as vascular bundles. Xylem phloem, xylem phloem, xylem phloem. Now between the xylem and phloem, एक बंडल और दूसरे बंडल के बीच में जो जगह है ना, in that region we find interfascicular cambium between the two bundles. Okay, between the two bundles, that is called as interfascicular cambium. Inter मतलब क्या है? Inter मतलब between. इंटर क्लास कॉम्पिटिशन, इंटर हाउस कॉम्पिटिशन, दो हाउस के बीच में हो रहा है. इंटर हाउस, इंटर स्कूल कॉम्पिटिशन, दो स्कूल के बीच में हो रहा है. सोचो कि एक स्कूल है, ये एक और स्कूल है, दोनों स्कूल के बीच में फाइट हो रहा है यहां पर. ओके, दैट इज कॉल्ड इंटरफेसुलर कैम्बियम. देन व्हाट इज इंट्रा? इंट्रा इट मींस विद इन. देख रहे हो यहां पर जो जाइलम है, यहां पर जो फ्लोएम है, इन दोनों के बीच में एक यहां पर कैम्बियम है, दोनों के बीच में. That is called as fascicular vascular cambium or intrafascicular cambium. So intra means within. Intra means what, students? Within. Okay, within the vascular bundles. So any doubt in between these two, students? What is inter, what is intra, and there is cor cambium. Three different examples of your lateral meristem. Okay, examples of your lateral meristem, students. Here also I've given you one more time. See this. Three different examples of lateral meristem. Okay, done. Students, board exams are very easy. I don't know, you don't have to worry so much about board exams. Board exams के लिए उतना टेंशन लेने की जरूरत नहीं है. board exams के लिए आराम से हो जाएगा. Okay, three different examples of lateral meristem. Okay, now with that, here is a quick question. Let's see who can solve. This is a NEET 2022 question. Anyone? Very good. AP combination से बनता है. Okay. Students, answer दे दिया पर it is very easy. This is a NEET 2023 question. It said, consider the following paths: axillary bud, fascicular vascular cambium, interfascicular cambium, cor cambium, intercalary meristem. So identify which are the lateral meristem here. Identify which are the lateral meristem. So fascicular is lateral, inter is lateral, as well as cor cambium. So B, C, D, all three are lateral meristem. So they can ask a question like this. Now students, now. So this is done. All the meristematic tissue is done now. Now we go to simple permanent tissue. The simple permanent tissue are the tissues which do not divide. इसका काम division नहीं है. And how are they formed? Can anyone tell me how do we get these tissues? Students, how do we get permanent tissues? There is something called as primary meristem. This primary meristem undergoes what? Undergoes differentiation. What is differentiation, students? Differentiation is what? Loss of ability to divide. This primary meristem will completely lose. छोड़ देगा पूरा ability divide करना, छोड़ देगा पूरा का पूरा. Then we get permanent tissue. Now permanent tissue are two types: simple permanent, complex permanent tissue. इन दोनों के बीच में difference क्या है, students? Okay, what is the difference? Not de-differentiation, just differentiation. Not de-differentiation. What is de-differentiation? Regaining the ability to divide. That is de-differentiation. Regaining the ability to divide is de-differentiation. Okay. Now, in simple permanent tissue, only one type of cell is present. यहाँ पर जो cells मिलते हैं ना इस tissues के अंदर, इस तीनों tissue के अंदर only one type of cell is present. Now, what about in the case of complex permanent tissue? इसके अंदर more than one type of cell we can find. So one type of cell, more than one type of cell. The example here is xylem and phloem are the examples here. Parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma. are three different examples of your simple permanent. Okay. Now, students, now we will go over simple permanent first, then complex permanent in today's class. That will be the end of the class. Probably I will take another 20 to 25 minutes and today's class is over. Okay. Students, shall we start? Yes. Shall we start with the simple permanent, all of you? Yes. Shall we start with the simple permanent now? Students, you should know I take multiple different classes. Like, let's say I teach for NEET. All of you know I teach for NEET. NEET students there. Then I teach for Olympiad. Olympiad almost same content, पर आपके लिए I have to get Tatva also, and I have to read a little bit of Truman and come. Then I teach for second PUC. Right. Now all of this second PUC and KCT exam also I teach. So I teach for different examinations, and every single examination has a different prerequisite also, like which type of questions you have to approach there, right? So there is no something called as bore there, because KCT is different, second PUC is different, NEET is different, Olympiad is different. So I'm teaching for 4 different exams now. Okay. Now apart from this, from last week onwards, do you know what I'm teaching right now? From last week, guess students what I'm teaching? I am teaching even for 10th standard, because it is very interesting. छोटे बच्चों के लिए it's very right. So I'm not doing, students, I'm not doing, I finished my college long back. Okay. And then I teach for 10th standard. I know, do you know what students, guess what I teach there? Yes. Guess what, students, guess what I teach for 10th standard? Both. And nowadays I love teaching for 10th standard. Like थोड़ा मजा आता है वहां पर. Like I teach English grammar. I teach English grammar. I teach English lessons. I teach social. And recently I took a class on political science. Very interesting. I took a class in political science. I took a class on history. So I get to learn a lot. And when you learn a lot, when you learn something new, you obviously love it, right? Like नया पढ़ने के लिए मजा आता है, obviously. मेरे को भी बस आ रहा है अभी. Okay. So yes, students, you know I can teach English, right? All of you should be aware that my English grammar especially is really good, right? Apart from grammar, students, I have been teaching English from last year also. I taught English up to 12th standard English. I can teach up to 12th standard, obviously. Till that is very easy, right? So there is nothing called as getting bored at all. Okay. Students, someday I'll teach you some other subjects, right? So it's very interesting, students, very interesting. You get to learn a lot. And when you get to learn something new, you never feel bored, right? You never feel bored. Okay. Students, grammar is बहुत easy grammar. And you know what I learn in these classes? You know what do I learn in Olympiad? Content wise, it's same. But in Olympiad classes, I get to improve my Hindi also. Okay. In Olympiad class, I get to improve my Hindi, because मैं हिंदी किससे बात नहीं करता, and I never teach, and I don't teach Hindi in any channels. I teach in English, I teach in Kannada, I teach in Hindi now. So I get to learn here also. Right? मेरे को हिंदी उतनी आती नहीं है. I try, I attempt. Okay. मेरी हिंदी उतनी अच्छी नहीं है, क्योंकि I'm from South India, right? Even though I'm from South India, I might not have that accent, right? But still, I'm from South India. I'm from Bangalore. I am from Bangalore, right? So, yeah. Okay. So let's finish this up very quick, and then we'll scoot later on. Okay. Now, students, ये questions ज़्यादा पूछते नहीं है, but all of you need to be aware of what is parenchyma, what is collenchyma, what is parenchyma. मैं आपको ऊपर से बताऊंगा यहाँ पर. एक बार आप इसको तत्वा से पढ़ लो, बहुत easy है, कुछ भी नहीं है यहाँ पर. Okay. Parenchyma is living, students. Parenchyma is living right now. Okay. Storage, main function of parenchyma is storage. जहां पर भी एक प्लांट के अंदर ना, कहीं पर भी एक जगह हो ना, we push parenchyma there. So parenchyma is like your middle child. No one cares. Okay, no one cares. So हर एक इस प्लांट के अंदर कहां पर भी जगह है ना, वहां पर हम parenchyma को भर देते हैं हर जगह. So it is helps in packaging, students. Major component of all organs, cells are isodiametric. इसका मतलब क्या है? The cells are isodiametric. Iso matlab same. Diametric is diameter. So the cells here have the same diameter, isodiametric in nature. Now, some of the cells have different shapes. Some cells are polygonal, some cells are oval in nature, spherical in nature, they're present. Okay, some cells can be round, oval, polygonal, elongated, even spherical also. So we can find different types of students. Okay, students, for that we don't have to go to college. Okay, I'm doing it right. Students, I'm not getting time only nowadays. All my work is here. I think I have to postpone my PhD by one more year now because I'm not finding time to do my research. Right. So probably I have to postpone by one more year because I visited lab last week and my professor scolded me. My professor is like, Baswa, if you keep coming like this once a week or twice a week to lab, PhD will happen after 4 or 5 years. You forget only, he told me. So I felt sad also, but it is what it is. Okay, now what is function, students? Function is very simple. Storage, obviously they help in storage, they store things. Now some of the parenchyma can have chlorophyll in it, that is called as chlorenchyma. Some parenchyma has hava. What is hava, students? Hawai, air, that is called as aerenchyma. Okay, some parenchyma can also help in secretion of things. Okay, so secretory in nature, they can help in buoyancy, they can help gas exchange, spongy parenchyma, aerenchyma, and chlorenchyma. So different types of parenchyma can also be present. Okay, so let me just show in Tattva, students, 1 second. If Tattva is visible here, student, is the board visible to all of you? Student, this is very simple. Here is the diagram. Can all of you notice here? This is a diagram of root apical meristem. Diagram of your root apical meristem here. Can all of you see? Here is the root apical meristem. This root apical meristem, students, this root apical meristem will grow on this side and it will grow on this side. It will start dividing. When this root apical meristem is dividing on the bottom, it forms root cap eventually. When it is dividing on the top, it forms something called as your initials of central cylinder and cortex. जो cortex बनता है यहाँ पर. Then there is protoderm here, which is middle part here, right? So root apical meristem will grow on both the sides. Then what do we have? Students, we learned what is shoot apical meristem. Yes. Okay. Students, PhD, I'm telling you, scope is very less in India. If you want to, IISc Bangalore is really good, but if you there is nothing called as part time there. अगर आपको IISc Bangalore में PhD करना है, it is full time. So I'm doing part time right now PhD because I don't have that much of time to dedicate towards that. Like I have to teach or to work also, right? Right. So IISc Bangalore is very good, but they have full time programs there, right? Now, see, intercalary meristem is done. Can all of you, do you remember this? Interfascicular cambium, intrafascicular cambium. यहाँ पर दिख नहीं रहा, but my diagram is better here. Okay. Now, students, all of you remember differentiation. Meristematic tissue will lose the ability to divide and permanent tissue. So differentiation होता है. Differentiation. Permanent tissue is simple permanent, complex permanent, parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma. Okay, students. What is parenchyma, students? Most abundant and common tissue of the plant. जहां पर भी जगह है वहां पर हम भर रहे हैं उसको. Okay. Okay. Structure, students, what is structure? Cells of the parenchyma are generally isodiametric in nature, different cells. They're made of thin and made of cellulose here. Okay, see here. And you can find small ICS here. Small ICS. Intercellular space. Okay, see. Chlorenchyma, aerenchyma, storage parenchyma. इस तरह से. Chlorenchyma, जहां पर chloroplast होगा हर जगह chloroplast. It can do photosynthesis here. Aerenchyma में हवा भरी होती है. And storage parenchyma. Okay, function is given, students. Read the functions once. Okay, now what about next one that is called as the collenchyma. Now collenchyma, students, is very simple. Students, it is Tattva module. I got it from Nidhi ma'am. I don't know if you have it. I think you have to get it, I guess. So I got it from Nidhi ma'am. Nidhi ma'am gave it to me, right? She's like, sir, use this. I was like, okay, ma'am. I have a hard copy. Like I have a hard copy of Tattva. I can show you. See here. This is 11th, right? This is NACGS I have NEET Tatva. This is called as NEET Tatva. I didn't have any NSJS one because it has practice. Okay. So can you see here? This is NEET Tatva books. These are the NEET Tatva books. NEET. Okay. And this NEET Tatva books have NEET PYQs, Achievers Corner, almost every topic 150 questions. Every chapter 150 questions are there. Every chapter 150 plus questions. Okay. So there is that. Now students, colon-chyma is living. It is living mechanical tissue. There is no ICS here. इसका मतलब क्या है? There is no ICS here because there are thick corners everywhere. Diagram देखो students. Diagram देखो ये वाला. समझ आएगा. See. Can you look at colon-chyma right now? Colon-chyma has thick corners everywhere. Thick corners. So there is absolutely no way you can have something called as ICS here. ICS is completely absent here. Completely absent ICS. Okay. Completely absent. Okay. No, no. Cell wall is made up of pectin deposits and structure is, it is present in the hypodermis. Now, what is hypodermis, students? Very simple. Outermost layer is called as epidermis. Uske niche ka layer, that is called as hypodermis. So, epidermis, below it is called as hypodermis. Epidermis and hypodermis. Okay. Now, where do you find it? Where do you find it, students? Where do you find it? Okay, very simple. अगर आपने कभी एनी टाइप ऑफ डाइकॉट प्लांट को मोड़ा है स्टूडेंट्स, लाइक व्हेन यू ट्राई टू बेंड एनी हर्बेशियस ग्रीन स्टेम, व्हेन यू ट्राई टू बेंड हर्बेशियस ग्रीन स्टेम, इट इज लाइक इलास्टिक ना, देखा कभी स्टूडेंट्स? स्मॉल लेट्स से कोरिएंडर का स्टेम भी थोड़ा हल्का फुल्का है ना, लाइक यू कैन बेंड इट, इट इज इलास्टिक इन नेचर. देयर वी फाइंड एंटायर colon-chyma. We also find colon-chyma in the case of your petiole. What is petiole, all of you? All of you know what is petiole? All of you know what is petiole, right? If this is the leaf, this right here, the stalk of a leaf, this is called as petiole. Now, in this petiole also you find colon-chyma. Okay? So, where it is absent then, students? Where do you do not find? You can never find in the roots, absent in monocots. So, very important question. Okay, very important question this is, right? It is completely absent in the case of monocots. So, colon-chyma is present only in dicots, and that too where? In the stem region and the leaf region, never in the root. Never in the root. Okay, so please remember, it is absent in roots, absent in monocots. Okay, absent in monocots. Now, students, done. Elasticity. Now, students, then there is sclerenchyma. Very simple, dead tissue. This is simple dead tissue. Okay, mechanical support, पूरा सिर्फ support करेगा ये. Okay. Now, one more thing here, students. Please remember, colon-chyma can also help in photosynthesis. Apart from mechanical strength, it can also do photosynthesis because it is living tissue and it has a little bit of chlorophyll. Okay. Now, but this one cannot. Completely gone. Gone case. Gone case. Cell wall is lignin here. Here it has lignin here. Here we had pectin deposits. Pectin and lignin deposits. Now, students, there are two types of your sclerenchyma. One is called as fibers. One is called as sclerets. So, what is the difference between fibers and sclerets? Main difference is the structure of fibers and sclerets. Now, if you look at the structure of the fiber, they are much more elongated tube-like structure. Elongated tube-like structure with a tapering end. Now, what is tapering end, students? इसका मतलब क्या है? ये देखो students, आराम से देखो. Here, this is called as tapering end. Tapering ends. Can you see here? Tapering ends can be present here generally. Okay, tapering ends generally occurring groups. Cell wall has pits. I'll teach you what is pits. Now, if you look at the sclerets have highly thickened cell wall. Sclerets looks like this, something highly thickened wall. Their shapes we can vary, narrow lumen, and where do you find? This is very important. अगर students कभी अपने सपोटा खाया, सपोटा, चीकू, students have you ever eaten चीकू? कभी चीकू का जूस पिया है कभी students आपने? कभी आपने चीकू का जूस पिया है? चीकू का जूस, चीकू पिया कभी students? कभी पिया है चीकू का जूस? When you drink चीकू जूस, आपके मुंह में ना, आपके माउथ के अंदर, do you get this small fiber structures? Friends, नहीं कभी नहीं खाया चीकू? हाँ? Friends, sapota, the brown color sapota. Friends, how can you not eat chiku? Huh? Students, have you never eaten this? कभी नहीं खाया ये वाला? हाँ? कभी नहीं खाया ये सपोटा और चीकू? This is called as chiku, students. Chiku. This one. Now, when you make juice out of it, when you make juice out of chiku, आपके मुंह के अंदर स्टूडेंट्स, you will get a lot of grains, you will get a lot of fiber like structure in your mouth. That is nothing but sclerets. Sclerets are present. Okay, so sclerets are present in your fruit walls of nuts, fruit pulps of guava, pear, etc. and seed coats of legumes. So जहां पर भी hard layer होते हैं ना, in those hard layer we get students. Okay, okay. It's not very famous in North India. Okay, okay. Students, come to South India. I'll buy you chikus. It's very fun. Very tasty it is. Okay. Yes, in guava also. In guava, pear, nuts and fruit walls. Present in the tea leaves also. Legumes के अंदर भी जो होता है ना, legumes का seed coat, वहां पर भी होता है students. वहां पर भी होता है. Okay. Students, you have never eaten dragon fruit? Dragon fruit नहीं देखा? कभी dragon fruit नहीं खाया? Dragon fruit. I grow dragon fruit. मेरे घर के अंदर आई ग्रो ड्रैगन फ्रूट, आई ग्रो टमाटोज, आई ग्रो ब्रिंजॉल, आई ग्रो लेमन्स, आई ग्रो माई सेल्फ पोटैटोज, थोड़ा थोड़ा. ओके, सो आई एम ग्रोइंग ड्रैगन फ्रूट ऑल्सो. राइट, वेरी इजी टू ग्रो, वेरी इजी टू ग्रो. उसका और स्टूडेंट्स, उसका टेस्ट अच्छा नहीं होता, कुछ भी कुछ टेस्ट नहीं होता उसका. ओके. हम्म. और यू सॉ माय स्टूडेंट्स, you're in my telegram, right? If you join my telegram, I keep uploading some photos there, you might have seen. Okay. It takes some time, it will take a couple of weeks, right? So in my telegram I keep uploading my harvest also. मेरे पास एक छोटा सा pond भी है. I am growing fishes also. I am doing pisciculture. I am also doing pisciculture. पर उस pisciculture को कुछ use नहीं है. We can't eat all that. I am only growing guppies, small guppies I am growing. Okay, I'm rearing them. I'm rearing guppies also. Then I have capsicum. Capsicum का नया plant है students, right? I have capsicum plant also I'm growing. Then obviously I have rosemary. All of you know what is rosemary, right? Rosemary, which is very fancy this thing herb it is. Then thyme, and then there is oregano also, right? Oregano we can make easily at home. Okay. Then what else? What is that? Left side done, right side done. Then there is curry leaf. I'm growing curry leaf also, right? So there is curry leaf also, students, right? Guppies are very easy to student. Guppies will grow easily. Okay. So now students, so fibers, sclerets done. Now here they can ask you students, what are pits? Pits माने क्या? Like very student, very simple. Okay. If this is the outside the cell wall, inside this plasma membrane, यहाँ पर entire thing is covered by pectin deposits. It's covered by lignin deposits. Entire thing is covered by lignin deposits. Lignin deposits. और इस lignin deposits के अंदर ना, there are small gaps. These gaps in the deposition are called as pits. So यहाँ पर जो gaps बनते हैं ना इस complete lignin deposition के अंदर, those gaps are called as pits. Okay, called as pits. So is it like vesicle, but it has legume and small hole? Yes, it has pits. Pits can be found here also, students. Pits can be present here also. Can you see? Pits can be present here also in the fiber also. Okay. एक मिनट स्टूडेंट्स, एक मिनट दिखाते हैं यहाँ पे क्या लिखा है इन्होंने. चलिए देखो स्टूडेंट्स, पिट्स आर प्रेजेंट एवरीवेयर, फाइबर्स एंड स्क्लेरेट्स. डिफरेंस नहीं दिया, डिफरेंस देने से अच्छा होता, डिफरेंस देने से अच्छा होता, बट नहीं दिया है. Just read this. Fibers are thick-walled, elongated, and pointing cells. So they're elongated, tapering end. Okay, are spherical, oval, and cylindrical, highly thick dead walls with very narrow cavities. Okay, the main difference between fibers and sclerates is the shape of the entire sclerenchyma shape. Okay, now students, now we come to the entire complex tissue. Shall we start? Yes, students, shall we start now? Students, all of you know the oregano which you get in pizza can be made at home. पता है ना आपको? You don't have to buy oregano from outside. घर में बना सकते हो आप. Oregano can be made in the house. You don't buy from outside and all. Okay, so you can make it at home. Hmm. Hmm. Okay, see, you can find sclerets here. Sclerets can be present here. Okay, sclerets can be present, students. Now we come to complex tissue, students. Okay, right. Now we come to the complex tissues. यहाँ पर दो तरह के students. Many students get confused here, right? They're like, sir, how to remember this? How to remember? I will teach you concept. After you learn the concept and way to remember it, आप आज ही बैठ के ना एक बार तत्वा से पूरा पढ़ लो एक बार. Trust me, बहुत easy हो जाएगा. Now I will tell you how to remember this. That is my goal. Okay. Now students, now listen to me very carefully. First one is xylem. What does xylem do? Xylem is basically a conducting tissue which helps in transportation of water. पानी supporting में transportation में help करता है. Okay, conduction tissue, living, it can be living or non-living. Okay, conducting tissue from root to stem to leaf. Roots है ना ऊपर की तरफ unidirectionally it can make the water flow. Okay, NCERT is more than enough, students, generally. Okay, now there are 1, 2, 3, 4 different types of xylem here. Okay, first one is called as tracheids, second is called as vessels, third is called as xylem parenchyma, and the fourth is called as xylem fiber. Now इसमें difference क्या है? Here the first two and this one, all three are non-living in nature. So 3:1 ratio. All of you remember parenchyma is living. इतना आपको सबको याद रहेगा ना? Parenchyma is living tissue, parenchyma is living tissue. So इसलिए यहाँ पर xylem parenchyma is completely living. Remaining three are completely non-living यहाँ पर, non-living. This you have to remember also. Okay. Now पहले one, let's talk about tracheids. Now students, the best way to remember tracheids and vessels, students, listen to me very carefully. आपके घर के अंदर पानी किस तरह से आता है स्टूडेंट्स? कहां से आता है? पाइप से आता है स्टूडेंट्स. पाइप से आता है ना घर के अंदर. देयर विल बी लॉन्ग लॉन्ग पाइप्स. दीज पाइप्स आर एंटरिंग योर हाउस और उसी पाइप से आपके घर के अंदर पानी आता है ना? है ना? सो ट्राई टू रिमेंबर एज ट्रकीड्स एंड वेसल्स आर लाइक द पाइप्स इन योर हाउस. ना पहला जो कौन सा स्टूडेंट्स? ट्रकीड. थिंक ऑफ ट्रकीड एज अ स्मॉल पाइप. व्हाट इज ट्रकीड स्टूडेंट्स? ट्रकीड इज अ स्मॉल पाइप जिससे पानी निकल के आ रहा है. Trachea is a small pipe. Okay, see students, elongated tube-like cells. Are they elongated tube-like? They are like elongated and tube-like. Okay, they are elongated and tube-like. Okay, students, sclerenchyma, nothing is a sclerenchyma. You have to only learn about trachea, sclerets and fibers. That's all. Okay, now they're narrow tube-like cells. Okay, now here also we can find tapering ends. इसका मतलब क्या है? Tapering ends, again I told you students, इस तरह से ends are tapering, मतलब ends are joining. आपको पता है आप घर के टैप में ना यहां पर मोटा होता है और पास आते आते tapering end. Can you see students? Tapering end. So elongated tube like cell with a tapering end. With a tapering end. समझ आ गया इतना? 2 पॉइंट क्लियर? 2 पॉइंट क्लियर. नाउ थिक लिग्निफाइड वॉल्स. अगर सोचो स्टूडेंट्स आपके घर के अंदर जो पाइप आ रहा है ना, जनरली इट इज मेड अप ऑफ मेटल और प्लास्टिक. तभी स्टूडेंट्स जो पाइप्स आ रहे हैं जनरली दे मेड अप ऑफ मेटल्स. मेटल्स के आते हैं घर के अंदर जल्दी से. और जो भी पाइप्स घर के अंदर आते हैं ना, अंदर की तरफ जो होते हैं ना, दे आर मेड अप ऑफ मेटल्स जनरली. मेटल्स, प्लास्टिक चला गया कभी जमाना. पीवीसी, हाँ पीवीसी बनता है स्टूडेंट्स. बट इज द पीवीसी हार्ड, वेरी हार्ड और वेरी इज पीवीसी वेरी हार्ड or is it very soft, very flimsy? बताओ स्टूडेंट्स. पीवीसी इज वेरी हार्ड राइट. बहुत स्ट्रांग होता है पीवीसी. टूटता नहीं है, वो टूटता नहीं है. सो हाईली लिग्निफाइड वॉल्स. सो दिस पीवीसी इज वेरी हाईली लिग्निफाइड. ओके ओके. घर ओके स्टूडेंट, मेरा घर ऊपर है स्टूडेंट, क्या करें अभी. तो narrow tube like cell with a tapering end और thick lignified walls. यहां पर lignin depositions है. So very strong it is, very strong. और इसका lumen देखो स्टूडेंट, lumen. So this is given wrong in तत्वा. Students, make it correct. Okay, please make it correct. ट्रकीड्स हैव नैरो ल्यूमेन. देख रहे हो स्टूडेंट्स, ल्यूमेन मतलब अंदर का, ल्यूमेन इज वेरी नैरो. कैन यू सी, छोटा सा ल्यूमेन है, छोटा सा ल्यूमेन है. So it has narrow lumen. So inner layer of the cell wall have thickening that may vary in form, and it has narrow lumen. That's all you have to know about tracheids. कुछ नहीं और. Okay, कुछ नहीं चाहिए और students. And these tracheids are completely absent in the case of gymnosperms and pteridophytes. Gymnosperms और pteridophytes के अंदर tracheids are completely absent, because this is a feature of an advanced plants like gymnosperm, like your angiosperms, Okay. Now what about vessels, students? Vessels. Now students, आपने कभी देखा है आपके घर से जो एक पाइप बाहर निकलते रहता है, जो अंदर की तरफ पाइप आ रहा है वो छोटा सा पाइप है. Now the pipe which is going outside your house into drainage, वो पाइप बड़ा सा होता है छोटा सा होता है? बड़ा सा पाइप. जनरली स्पीकिंग जो गटर में जा रहा है ना पाइप और वॉशरूम से बाहर निकल रहा है, दैट इज अ वेरी लार्ज पाइप्स. दे आर वेरी लार्ज पाइप्स. सो थिंक ऑफ दीज vessels as your large pipes. They are very large pipes, students. देख रहे हो? अगर आपने नोटिस किया होगा, these large pipes, are they connected to each other? देखा हो कभी? something like this, कनेक्टर डाल दिया, यहाँ पर कनेक्टर डाल दिया, इस तरह से कनेक्टर, और यहाँ पर नीचे से कनेक्शन बन गया. Have you noticed? They're connected, students. They're connected. Okay, they're connected to each other. So यहाँ पर भी you can find something called as vessel members. This one is called as a vessel member. This is called as a vessel member. This is called as a vessel member. और ये सारे के सारे vessel members है ना, vessel members, they will join together, students. Join together. All the vessel members are joined together. Now join होने के बाद how can the water flow then? The water can easily flow because of the perforations. देखो यहाँ पर बीच में जो है ना जगह, यहाँ पर परफोरेशंस होते हैं, इस तरह परफोरेशंस बीच में, देयर आर परफोरेशंस हियर, माने गैप्स होते हैं, और इसी गैप से पानी फ्लो करता है. ओके, सो लॉन्ग सिलिंड्रिकल ट्यूब्स, सो देयर आर सिलिंड्रिकल लॉन्ग ट्यूब्स, ओके, made up of many cells called as vessel members. Each one is called as a vessel member. Each cell has lignified wall and a large central cavity मिलता है यहाँ पर. Okay, but what about the lumen, students? Is the lumen wide or lumen narrow here? Tell me, students. Think logically. In the case of vessels, is the lumen inside lumen large, wide, or very narrow? It is very wide now. Lumen, अंदर का lumen बड़ा हो गया अभी. अंदर का lumen बड़ा हो गया है ना? बड़ा हो गया है. So in the case of vessels, the lumen is wider here. Lumen is wider. Okay. Now, it is a typical feature of angiosperms again. Angiosperms. So here is the, students, difference between your tracheids and vessels. Quickly look at this, students, all of you. अब यहाँ पर you will never see tapering end here. Tapering end नहीं दिखता है यहाँ पर. Okay, present in, student, tracheids are also absent in your vascular plants. One second, students. Tracheids are generally absent. One second, students. One second. Okay, students. Once vessels are absent. One second, students. One second. In gymnosperms and pteridophytes, they are present. Tracheids are present, but in the case of your vessels, only in angiosperms. So this difference has to be clear. Sorry, students, made a mistake here. For this, I have to make a trick now. No. This is correct. This is correct. This is correct right now. Okay, this is correct. I cross-checked. This is correct. This is correct, students. Follow this only. Tracheids are present in all vascular plants. मतलब जहां पर भी all the way from the pteridophytes. In bryophyte algae नहीं मिलता. From pteridophytes we get this. Okay, we get this. This is present everywhere. Okay, vessels are present only in angiosperms. I think I told by mistake. I told this is present only in gymno. It is not present in gymnoangio, but it is present in your gymnosperms. Tracheids are present everywhere, but they are primitive tracheids, not advanced tracheids. Okay. Oof. narrow lumen, large lumen, wider lumen हो गया, correct है. Highly thickened, less thickened and then tracheids do not have end plates. यहाँ पर end plates मिलता है. End plates मतलब क्या students? End plates मतलब ये वाले. These are called as end plates. These are called as end plates. Okay. Okay, do you know students, there is something called as classification of your plants. There is something called as algae, bryophyte, pteridophyte, gymnosperms and geosperms. So you have to watch plant kingdom lecture for that to understand. If possible, students, if possible, I will try to take a 1.5 hour revision of plant kingdom for all of you. Revision of plant kingdom for all of you to revise entire plant kingdom once. Okay. So I believe many of you would have forgotten plant kingdom. आपको याद है स्टूडेंट्स, आपको याद है क्या? What is liverwort? What is mosses? What is homospory? What is heterospory? What happens in the case of what is gemme? याद है स्टूडेंट्स? याद है? What is chlorophyce, phaeophyce, rhodophyce? Do all of you remember? Do all of you remember, students? Yes or no? All of you remember or not? Students, please remember chlorophyce, rhodophyce, phaeophyce are three different types of your algae. Then in bryophytes, we generally learn about hornworts, liverworts and mosses. In mosses and liverworts, you will learn something called a sporophyte and gametophyte. That is also very important. और उसके बाद in the case of pteridophytes, you learn something about homospory and heterospory. Heterospory found in Selagina and Salvinia. Okay. Then in gymnosperms, you don't learn much. Gymnosperms, please remember about difference between pinus and cycas. Pinus में क्या होता है, cycas में क्या होता है, especially in the case of cycas. In the case of cycas, it has something called as choloroid roots. What are choloroid roots? Choloroid roots are nothing but which has the cyanobacteria association in it. निकल गया क्या स्टूडेंट्स? दिमाग से निकल गया क्या? नहीं याद? It's fine, students. I will take revision. So I will take revision lecture on this. I will teach entire plant kingdom in around 70 to 80 points. Okay? Chill. I'll do it. Okay? आपको कुछ extra याद होगा. Now, after trachees and vessels, students, trachees and vessels, there is xylem parenchyma. Parenchyma उतना function नहीं है. Parenchyma also helps in storage. Only helps in storage. देखो, helps in storage, living cell, thin walled cellulose deposition से यहाँ पर. Okay? Same goes for xylem fiber. Xylem fiber is highly thickened, obliterated center. This is very important. What is the meaning of obliterated? The meaning of obliterated is it is completely filled on the inside. And it can also have septa like this. Septa can be present here. Okay, septa can be present, students. Okay, there can be presence of septa also here, like this. Presence of septa. Okay, now see the students. Now, this is very important, students. What is endark condition? What is exarch condition? Difference between endark condition and exarch condition. Now, I would suggest learn exarch. इसका opposite यहाँ पर होगा. Now, what is exarch condition, students? In exarch condition, there is something called as protoxylem and metaxylem. Now, what is protoxylem and what is metaxylem? Understand. There is something called as protoxylem and metaxylem in xylem. Protoxylem is the first formed xylem. So it is a type of your primary xylem only, not secondary xylem. It's a primary tissue. Primary xylem, first formed primary. ये xylem पहले पर बनता है, पहला बनता है. First it is formed. That is called as protoxylem. Protoxylem के बाद there is something called as metaxylem. Metaxylem is what? Later formed primary xylem. So both are type of primary xylem. First formed, later formed. Okay. एक मिनट लिख लेता हूं यहाँ पर. वो नहीं दिख रहा होगा. There is something called as protoxylem and metaxylem. Protoxylem is first formed. This is later formed. Later formed. Metaxylem is later formed. Okay. Now, what is exarch condition, students? What is exarch condition? In exarch condition, here I have a small trick called as RXP. What is RXP? In the case of root, we find exarch condition. RXP, root, exarch, and what is P? Periphery. That is PP. RXPP. What is P? That is protoxylem is in periphery. So protoxylem is towards the periphery, means on the outside. So if you look at a cross section, you will notice the protoxylem. एक मिनट देखो here. This is called as protoxylem, metaxylem on the inside. Protoxylem is present on the outside here. Metaxylem on the inside. That is called as exarch condition. In exarch condition, RxPP. Okay. So that is later on, students. I'll teach you secondary growth. That is later on. Okay. What is RxPP? Root exarch protoxylem on periphery. So protoxylem is present on the periphery here. Periphery. उसका उल्टा बता दो स्टूडेंट्स. इट इज रूट माने यहां पर स्टेम आएगा, यहां पर एक्स मतलब यहां पर एंडार्क आएगा. प्रोटोजाइलम विल बी प्रेजेंट हियर आल्सो, बट यहां पर प्रोटोजाइलम वाज ऑन पेरिफेरी, बट हियर प्रोटोजाइलम विल बी इन द सेंटर. सो प्रोटोजाइलम इज प्रेजेंट इन द सेंटर हियर, मेटाजाइलम ऑन द पेरिफेरी हियर. उसका उल्टा कर देते हैं अभी. ओके, सो आरएक्सपीपी मतलब मेटाजाइलम ऑन द सेंटर हियर, प्रोटोजाइलम ऑन द पेरिफेरी. उसका उल्टा इज एंडार्क. Endark is present in the stem generally. So RxPP and your endark condition. So just learn one, इसका opposite वहां पर है. Okay. Now students, now when you talk about phloem, phloem basically is a conducting tissue, helps in transportation of food bidirectional. यहाँ पर जो खाना बनता है नीचे भी जा रहा है ऊपर भी जा रहा है, दोनों तरफ खाना जा रहा है यहाँ पर. ओके, उसके बाद स्टूडेंट, उसके बाद यहाँ पर आपके पास चार different. Students, what is the meaning of different in Hindi? भूल गया. What do you call different in Hindi, students? अलग अलग. हाँ, यहाँ पर आपके पास चार अलग अलग तरह के phloem है. यहाँ पर there is something called as sieve tubes, companion cells, parenchyma. First three, all three are living here. All three are living. The only non-living is fiber here. Now here students, these two are very simple to learn, and I'll tell you what is the main point there. But these two are very important here. Sieve tubes and companion cells are very important, and both are absent in gymnosperms. Okay, now see this students. Now here by side I have given, okay, for a better comparison. Student, दिख रहा है ये is it properly visible to all of you? Is it properly visible to all of you? Yes. Okay. Now first one is called as sieve tube elements. They're long tube-like cells. They're long tube-like cells arranged longitudinally, associated with companion cell. So they are called as what? They are called as sister cells. Sister cells. Okay, because here this companion cell is the right sieve tube cell. यहाँ पर nucleus is completely absent here. Okay, so what happens here? Mature sieve elements have peripheral cytoplasm. मतलब क्या है? सारा cytoplasm. This is cytoplasm. See this cytoplasm on that green color one is cytoplasm. So सारा का सारा cytoplasm will go on the corners like this. So peripheral cytoplasm for the transportation of food can happen easily, and large vacuole and lax nucleus. अगर आप ही सोचो स्टूडेंट्स, अगर यहाँ पर न्यूक्लियस होता तो ट्रांसपोर्टेशन फूड में दिक्कत आती. So nucleus is removed here. Nucleus निकाल फेंक दिया हम nucleus को यहाँ पर. So cytoplasm is also moved to the sides. Free flow can happen. Now if there is no nucleus here, इसको help कौन करता है फिर काम करने के लिए? Companion cell. See, specialized parenchyma cells. What is the function, students? Sieve tubes and companion cells are connected by pit fields and present between them common field. Companion cell main function is maintain pressure gradient in the sieve tubes. इसका काम क्या है पता है? इसको कंट्रोल करना. ओके, क्योंकि इसके पास sieve ट्यूब के पास न्यूक्लियस नहीं है. सो इसका सारा कंट्रोल कंपेनियन सेल के पास है. Okay, now friends, let me just show you tatva for a better diagram. I feel. देखो स्टूडेंट्स, ट्रकीज पतले पाइप्स, वेसल्स मोटे पाइप वेसल्स. देख रहे हो यहाँ पर वेसल 1, वेसल 2. दिस इज कॉल्ड एज परफोरेटेड पाथ. कैन यू सी परफोरेशंस हैं यहाँ पर. दिस इज कॉल्ड एंड प्लेट आल्सो. एंड प्लेट. ओके, ट्रकीज. xylem fibers can be septate, aseptate. Okay, xylem parenchyma. Students, see this. This is protoxylem, first formed xylem, metaxylem, later formed xylem. Okay, now students, what is exarch, students? RXPP, right? Root, exarch, protoxylem, periphery. Protoxylem is on the periphery here. RXPP, exarch. उसका opposite यहाँ पर है. Endocrine exarch. Now students, see this, see this, see this, see this. All of you see this. First of all, do all of you see the here the sieve tubes. Sieve tubes are your elongated tube-like cells. आपको इस sieve tubes के अंदर न्यूक्लियस दिख रहा है क्या? नहीं दिख रहा, because nucleus is completely absent in the sieve tubes. Okay. Now, how can this sieve tube and one more sieve tube on the top, how can they transfer the food? Because of something called as sieve plate. यहाँ पर sieve plate, देखो ये देखो, you see, this is called as sieve plate. जब यहाँ पर gaps होते हैं ना, gaps ऊपर का और नीचे का, everything is connected here. Now, this sieve tubes is completely controlled by the companion cell. Companion cell is controlling it. Okay, companion cells. And companion cells have nucleus. They have nucleus. So, ये जो companion cell है ना, ये सारा का सारा control हम sieve tube को कर रहा है पूरा. कर रहा है. That is the main function of your sieve tubes and companion cell. Okay, see this, sieve tube elements. देख रहे हो? Can you see the sieve plate here? यहाँ से खाना घुसता है, खाना घुसता रहता है. Companion cell उसके बगल में companion cell है. बगल companion cell है, students. Okay, now very simple, very simple. These two are now phloem parenchyma, phloem fibers. The most important part here in phloem parenchyma is it is absent in monocot. उसको छोड़ के they will never ask you, because this is the thing which every student forgets. Okay, parenchyma is what? Parenchyma is elongated cells. Normal parenchyma जिसमें था ना हमारे xylem में था, elongated, tapering end, cylindrical, similar to tracheids but parenchyma cells. What is the function? Dense cytoplasm, nucleus, normal, helps in storage, उतना ही. But this is the main point here, absent in monocots. Fibers, again, fibers are your sclerates. They are dead completely. They are completely, they can have pits everywhere, pits. They can be septate, aseptate, same thing. Okay, see here, pointed needle like apices, same thing is present here, students. Okay, so I would suggest all of you to quickly today only, all of you go through this entire thing. Okay, see here, sieve tubes, no nucleus, entire thing. So I would suggest all of you go through this entire thing before attending next class. In the next class, we will be starting off with the tissue system, that is epidermis, ground tissue, vascular tissue. All three plus the entire chapter in the next class. Next class is going to be for 1.5 hours. So come prepared in the next class. Learn all this from today. Okay. So bye bye students. All of you take care. Have a great day ahead. Right up. I will see you in the next lecture. Until then, keep studying, keep working hard, and sayonara all of you. Sayonara.